Thank you for joining, Peter. I don't think we've spoken in ages.
When did you leave Ericsson?
I left 2014, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, or 15. It was after my son was born.
Yeah.
And I left. And I remember seeing you at a conference. I think it was a tech conference somewhere in, I think it was Excel. And they had one of those big conferences. I think it was Tech XLR, something like that. And
Yeah.
you were demoing for Ericsson as you do on these things.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah, so it was really, really good. But I thought it would be useful to hear from you and talk about emerging tech.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, just to hear about some of the fantastic things you're doing with Ericsson, and of course to touch on how all of this new tech stuff can help more women
Yeah.
become interested in tech and eventually get into tech.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but if you look at my background,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is nobody's seen this yet outside of Ericsson,
Wow.
right? So this is going to show you how technology, regardless of where you are, regardless of who you are, can connect people to do the things they want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this particular image, let's say there's a boy who's mad about dinosaurs. He wants to learn about dinosaurs. He wants to understand all about the size and shape, and he wants to feed them, etc. He wants to be a part of that. So
Yeah.
within the new technology, where we're going with immersive experiences and the kind of feeling of remote things and being able to smell and sense things and then
Yeah.
play with them, why not show a boy or girl, you don't know who it is, boy or girl, playing with the dinosaur in virtual reality? But on the
Yeah.
same side, the mother is doing her job, but she's
Yeah.
doing her job with all sorts of different people in a
Yeah.
virtual world, and she's being a really good architect about bringing something sustainable to life
Yeah.
in that little picture at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we're saying in a world where connectivity has no bounds and everybody can feel, touch, interact, and collaborate,
Yeah.
anything could be possible. But
Yeah.
the one thing that's missing in this picture, and we've asked the guys to put it in, is to show the children's friends playing with him in virtual reality. It's not
Mm.
gaming, it's not shoot them up, it's learning about dinosaur collectively together. And
Yeah.
then the picture, why don't we have an avatar of the lady talking to her colleagues? So she's getting real sense of presence of the hologram, and she's getting real sense of interaction as well. So she doesn't look at a screen like I'm looking at a screen now. She feels like
Yeah.
the Iron Man thing where the Iron Man says, "Let's make it this big," and he goes, and he
Yeah.
shrinks it. Well, you
Yeah.
could do that kind of with this type of technology, and you could
Yeah.
then show all your colleagues 360 around it. They could walk around looking at it and say, "Now I get it. Now I know why the room has to be this big. Now I understand
Yeah.
why the door has to be there." So, in terms of decision making, it speeds up significantly. In terms
Yeah.
of being located in specific places to get your job done,
Mm-hmm.
enough to happen. So people from around the world could be working with this lady here, helping with creating sustainable office. She
Yeah.
could get from Africa, from Latin America, from the Philippines, wherever, all being a part of this creation.
Yeah.
And because it's all digitized, you can then use the same model to stick in another location and see what happens, and stick in another location and see what happens. So you kind of developing once globally and then deploying it
Mm.
as many times as you want to afterwards.
Yeah.
So
And is this something that is enabled by technology which already exists
oh,
today, or is this the future?
you can definitely do part of it. So I mean, the whole augmented reality thing, yeah, you can do it. And there's many situations where you can look at things. So you could go into a factory, and as you walk into the factory, augmented reality overlays certain parameters about the plant or the robot or something, and you can
Mm.
see that, and you can get somebody also seeing what you're seeing, both the physical world and the virtual world. So if you are a maintenance engineer and you're walking into a factory and you've been told to fix a problem and you can't see what the problem is, physically, you put the virtual on top. So then you can see the wiring or the joints or something. And in some cases, there's enough intelligence for that virtual world to go, that connection is not in the right place.
Yeah.
It'll tell the engineer that you actually point in virtual reality, that's the thing that you need to change. And if you can't do it still, then you'll speak to the central expert, and the central expert says, hang on a second, Peter, let me just have a look at what you're looking at. What you've missed is, and direct him to where he needs to do something to help the factory floor.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah. So if you think about what that means, you could do it for medicine, you could do it for traffic management, you could do it for wildlife protection, you could do it for so many different things. And this is what I'm trying to encourage. There are so many bits of this good creative stuff being done in isolation.
Yeah.
And somebody else is doing the same job in a different country, and it's taking 6 months to do that piece of work. Just seems a bit ridiculous to me. And this is where, in my role, I'm trying to encourage people to think over the walls and talk to each other. And if you go back to the whole diversity thing, I mean, some of the best ideas have come from young children. I love going to universities and to schools. I've been to five schools in the last 2 years, and we have this competition. So Peter Marshall has told you about what the future could look like.
Yeah.
He doesn't know all the answers. Tell Peter what could happen by 2030 based on what he said. And we've had
this is where Bunkers is Beautiful comes from.
Well, exactly. This is where Bunkers is. Exactly. So we've had robotic bees that fly around and tell the farmers what's going on. We've had automatic wardrobes that can check the weather or your diary and say, as you walk into the wardrobe, your clothes would then be selected for you because it's raining or it's sunny and you're going to a dance. Those are the types of bonkers ideas that you're getting from the field. I mean, it's great. And then because I have a fascination about dinosaurs, as you can see there, some people have said to me, just doing the whole time traveling thing and understanding the time traveling thing and getting a little bit more immersed in what you could do and experience, etc. And then you have the question, well, now you're blurring what is reality and what's not reality.
Yeah.
So you as children, would you want to live in reality or would you always want to live in virtual reality? And you have to have a really good balance there. So this is where the whole, what we call extended reality comes in. So you're walking down Hyde Park, for example. As you're walking down Hyde Park, everything that you want to see comes to life. So, for example, if you're really into art or sculptures and you're walking down Hyde Park, virtual sculptures could be geotagged in certain locations around Hyde Park and you could see them. So when you're walking down Hyde Park, you just don't see the Serpentine and some horses and some people on deck chairs. You see a sculpture that you're interested in and you can go with your friends to see the sculpture.
Yeah.
Which is quite exciting.
That's really good. It's good. So that's a nice picture to look at, but I can imagine an awful amount of technology goes in to make that happen. So we talked about what can make this happen at the moment, and of course we've got 5G, but you've also got the metaverse, which this starts to sound like, and you've got all sorts that can potentially be in here. So talk us through some of the tech that's going to make this happen.
So 5G is a critical factor to not all of this, but a large amount of this, because 5G has no boundaries in terms of indoor, outdoors, fields, cities, etc. It's everywhere. It is kind of the fabric that connects everything together, right? So if you want something to happen, you have two options. You have an option that you have something quite close to where your thing is, or you have an option where I don't need all that amount of intelligence. I'll just deal with what's around in the center. So if you're in a factory, for example, it's important that all your things that are happening in the factory have that security, have that reliability, and can get that localized feeling. So put a bit of a network in the factory.
Yeah.
But if you want a kind of a global gaming experience, why don't you have little parts of the network near those gaming experiences, but the rest of it somewhere in a central hub? So that's the type of technology we're thinking about from a 5G. And the thing that 5G does, which is quite new, it kind of allows what we call, how can I say it simply? It allows that response to a touch to be immediate. So if I touch something in a virtual world, you don't get that, oh, Peter's touched something, I better respond. It's immediate. So when you do the whole virtual gaming and you're kind of moving around like this, looking up and down, you sometimes get what's called cyber sickness, because your movement is quicker than the response of the game. In 5G, that doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen in the majority of cases, okay, depending on the environment. But it doesn't happen in the majority of cases purely because we have this thing called latency. And if the latency is below a 10 millisecond threshold, then you don't get it, right? And then if you go into the millisecond discussion, you know, when you put your finger on top of a candle and you just put it there and take it away, you don't feel the heat. Yeah. Because the brain doesn't take it that quick. So if you can beat that from a digital communications point of view, you can get the sense of touch. I can start feeling virtual things or physical things from a distance. So I've been in this situation just after you left, where I was controlling a robot with an exoskeleton and a glove on. And as I was moving him up and down like this, the exoskeleton was moving up and down. And as I was going to touch something, on the end of the robot, there were these nano nodes, which give you a sense of hard or soft. And that digital, as you touch something hard, there's a digital response that said, in my glove, I'm going to give you a digital equivalent of a hard feeling. Or I'm going to give you an equivalent of a soft feeling. So as I was moving my arm up and down, I could see the robot. I couldn't see the robot physically, but I could see it virtually because I had goggles on.
Yeah.
As I touched something, I could feel in my hand if it was soft or hard.
Oh, wow.
And the most emotional experience goes like this. We did the very first trial in, oh my God, Olympia, I think it was.
Yeah.
I was caught, one of the two. And we had this little jelly about the size of this mouse, right? And in the middle of the jelly, there was a hard stone. And we had a robotic finger that went over this jelly like this. And we said, right, let's carry on. Let's move your finger up and down, move your robotic finger up and down the jelly. Can you feel the soft bit? Yeah. Can you feel the hard bit? Oh, yeah, I can feel the hard bit. Right. Now do something straight away. Close your eyes and do it again. And stop when you feel that. Stop when you feel the hard bit. 99 times out of 100, everybody could feel the difference between hard and soft robotically or digitally, right? The most beautiful thing came is when a chap came who had some kind of disability. He said, Peter, I'd really like to go on your robotic finger. Am I okay? Of course you can. You know, everybody can have a go. So he did exactly the same. Can you feel the stone in the middle of this soft jelly? No. Okay. Let's try again. Maybe something wrong with the wiring or something. Try again. Still can't feel it. And then the chap who's a PhD student said to me, we're missing something really fundamental here, Peter. This is all digital. There's no physical thing going on here. All we need to do is to turn the values up to the top. Let's make it sensitive as we can possibly imagine. That it's overly sensitive for most people, but it might just work. Well, let's try it. So within 2 minutes, he turned all the dials. We said to the guy, right, we've done some changes, try it. He moved the robotic finger with his glove on from left to right. As soon as you touched the hard stone, he stopped, and a little tear came down his cheek. There was me as a 6'2" Geordie going, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to. But if you think about the situation, what we're doing is we're making lives a lot more richer because of technology. We can
Yeah.
now enhance people's senses because of what we can do with 5G. It's there to a point. It will be definitely a lot better by the time we get
Mm.
to 2050.
Yeah. Is that because 6G is coming in and some of the
Yeah,
limitations
yeah,
in 5G will hopefully go away?
yeah. Well, and the other thing is the devices. I mean, if you think about the devices at the moment, they're still very much a mobile phone.
Mm.
Yeah, there's not that many devices. How many people have you seen wearing augmented reality glasses down Oxford Street? You haven't. Yeah,
No.
they do exist, and there are these many devices that look like Ray-Ban glasses that have a
Yeah.
wire to them that stick into your back pocket. But I
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody walking around the street wearing augmented reality yet in the UK. Uh,
Yeah.
so by the time you get to 2030, when things get a lot smaller,
Yeah.
the processing doesn't need to be in the headset; it can be in the network. Anything's possible. So
Yeah.
next time I see you in if I used to see you in 2030, you might be wearing your glasses. I might be wearing
Yeah.
my different glasses. We might be having a conversation, but we'll be
Yeah.
seeing different things as we're talking to each other.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool, and especially just referencing the picture behind you. And I'm going to reference it because it's a mom, and it's having flexibility is something important to many women, especially when we have kids like the boy. They're trying to do something else. I think it's really great. And one thing about technology, and I know it's something you're familiar with because Ericsson had the slogan "Technology for Good," is
Yeah,
that ability to remove barriers, right, and enable people do what they want. And I guess while people might be thinking, oh, well, why are you talking to Peter on the women in tech
yeah,
channel and platform? It's really because tech is not gender specific, right? It doesn't belong to any gender. It doesn't well, it belongs to all of us. And when all
well,
of us are enabled to be able to do the things that are important to us as individuals and a society, it really helps us move on and helps us progress collectively.
I'll tell you one thing that really makes me get that warm feeling. I've done many STEM events: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, to girl organizations, university organizations. But then we're now focusing on STEAM, which
Mm.
includes arts in
Yeah.
there. And I did a presentation to a large grammar school with a friend of mine called Sarah Ellis from the Royal Shakespeare Company. So it was me and Sarah Ellis on the stage talking to all these girls from a year group within a grammar school.
Mm.
I talked about the engineering, the technology, the mathematics, the science, etc., and kind of brought that to life. And then Sarah, who's just the most fantastic speaker when it comes to joining technology and creativity, she's just made it come to life. She said, the thing that is so relevant nowadays is that technology is only as good as people's imagination.
Indeed.
And if you don't have the imagination, you don't have that level of creativity, you're only ever going to create this much. But
Yep.
as soon as you start having that level of creativity in your technical mind, what's possible? How far do you go?
Yep.
And this is where the whole diversity comes into the discussion.
Mm.
Having that technical, creative mindset joined,
With the artistic.
yeah,
I'll tell you what, I saw this picture on LinkedIn this morning, and it was one of those generated artwork where, the application was asked to predict what a certain kind of individual would look like, and was
yeah.
given different kind of roles, executive, chief operations, engineer, and all of that. And it came up with different animal profiles
Oh
for
yeah.
each and every character. But what was interesting is that in every single role, it's matched, well, it identified the profile as a guy, and it was consistent. So everybody had a tie and a suit. So they were all
But, that,
guys.
but that's the, I mean, that is a crazy thing. I mean, I've had many a person in Ericsson say, how do you get the most out of people? I said, I don't
Mm.
look person. I look through the person and see what they're going to offer in terms of their behaviors, their character, their interests, their skills.
Yeah.
And as long as you look past that without thinking about it consciously, that's where I get a little bit worried. Why are people stopping at the skin value?
Mm.
Why kind of passing the skin value and looking at the other better items around them? That's the thing I can't get my head around.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that all of those things and biases you talk about is making their way into the programming, into AI, because AI, for example, it would only generate as good as the data it's been
Yeah,
built on. So when I looked at it, I went, well, someone
yeah,
has definitely programmed this to interpret these questions in the
yeah,
way that it
yeah,
has. And it's the thing about diversity, and I guess it's going to become more and more
yeah,
important as standards evolve and new things come up, because if we don't think about these things, or women are not involved, because you get a room of like-minded people together, they will produce like-minded solutions and answers to problems. So if we're not getting diversity of thought, it means when systems are created that impacts all of us, there will be a gap which impacts all of us because the requirement hasn't
yes.
been gathered
But,
correctly.
I mean,
Yeah.
there used to be a huge thread about how the neurolinguistic programming is biased.
Mm.
So if the neurolinguistic programming is biased, how's that going to help the future? You know,
Interesting.
yeah.
It
So you
does
need,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're already on a back foot if the
Yes.
if the kind of core foundations of a lot of programming are biased.
Yeah. But this is why I think emerging tech is great, right? Because in my idealistic mind, I always imagine we're starting off on a blank slate for some of these
Mm.
technologies. So it's a good opportunity to get that fresh thinking in, to get those fresh perspective. I mean, what you're doing with the kids are great, telling us, as a child, how do you imagine this would work? Because that will throw out a completely different perspective no one else would think about. And it's that sort of thinking that we need to get in to tech
Definitely. But
to help shape it.
the two things that are absolutely essential. One is a bit of role modeling. Okay,
Mm,
there's not enough role models to kind of help with that confidence or that curiosity
mm,
to make it happen, and that's what we need to encourage a lot more. The second thing, which is probably a little bit more difficult, is to keep looking for opportunities and have that hunger.
mm,
You can't allow things. You can't wait for things to come to you. You need to have that hunger and that desire to get involved and do stuff, because
yeah,
things are coming at such a pace nowadays. And if you don't jump on quickly, somebody else is going to take it. So
yeah,
so a mixture between hunger and curiosity, I think, is essential for any kind of diverse discussion that you want to have.
yeah, yeah. And tech enables that, right? Because I mean, just looking at the last couple of years, that barrier to learning has been, well, I think it's not there anymore if you ask me, but that's just my view, because it's a lot easier to learn now, either about tech or anything really, because the information is out there if you want it.
I mean, you just have to look at the school strikes.
Yeah,
Strikes are happening next week. My son will naturally work from home, using his laptop, interacting with his school friends, and think nothing of it. Yeah,
of course, yeah. But that
but
wasn't a thing 10 years ago. It wasn't.
no, 10 years ago it would have been a real challenge, purely
Yeah.
because devices weren't available, connectivity wasn't as good as it should have been, and the kind of mindset to sit in front of a laptop and talk with your friends who are 10, 11 years old just would have never happened. It would have been felt quite alien.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in
Now
that
it's
respect,
second nature.
yeah, in that respect, COVID has been a blessing. COVID has allowed people to get the most out of technology in this kind of hybrid learning.
Yeah.
If it hadn't happened, it would have taken maybe a little bit longer.
It would have taken a long, long, long time. I just can't believe Zoom and Teams are a household name now.
Yeah,
Who could believe it? I mean, 5 years ago.
yeah. And, but I'll give you another one. How many people would have felt comfortable having a video call 3 or 4 years
Not
ago?
not many, not many. I mean, even when we worked together, it
Yeah,
wasn't something that was commonplace. It was the exception rather than the norm. But I quite liked that, we could travel all over the place, and now it's more like, oh, do you need to travel if you can make a video call, which is good because there are all sorts of benefits, right, from that. You don't have the same carbon footprint. I think as tech evolves and we can do some of the cool stuff with haptics, as you described, there is a lot more that can
mm,
happen. So if I wanted to see my GP, and my GP can, you
yeah,
know, actually get onto the network and be able to diagnose me and go, well, there's a lump there, or that's not quite right,
yeah,
then that's good because it takes everyone that one step further to saving time and working more efficiently.
yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that goes with all of this discussion, every time you connect something, there's an opportunity for somebody to connect to you without you knowing.
Yeah.
In a document I read a wee while ago, 2 or 3 years ago, it said by 2025 you would have 50 things that are connected to you. You wouldn't know about half of them, but they'll be connected to you. And as a result of those 50 things that are connected to you, a network could learn everything that you want to do. If you
Yeah.
were to walk to the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, what you were doing, where you were going, etc., etc. So there's 50 opportunities there for somebody to get into your life and ruin it. And the reason why I say that is that when I was in Brazil doing a speech on something or other, and this lady came up to me. She had pink hair, pink skirt, pink Dr. Martens boots, a lot of tattoos, a lot of piercing, etc. And she just said to me, "I love you, Peter." I said, "Well, okay, whatever," kind of thing. I said, "Why do you love me? You mentioned that in 2025 you could be connected to 50 things. Yeah, you
Mm.
could be connected to things with the whole kind of ubiquitous coverage that 5G can do. I love you even more. Okay, that's good to know. The reason why, but you're going to have to tell me why.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a professional hacker.
Okay.
You've made my life really interesting." I thought, oh my God, you know,
How so?
I mean, that is really quite scary. Somebody's
Yeah.
in kind of telecoms forums looking for opportunities.
Yeah.
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 So when you're looking at all the things that are going on behind me, it has to be secure. It has to have
Yeah.
that sense of privacy, but also has that you need to have that sense of confidence. Whatever you're doing
Mm.
is trusted, it's capable, etc. If it's
Yeah.
not, then the opportunities of all these things going on behind me will never happen.
And that's all opportunities, right? It's opportunities for new business, it's opportunities for new kinds of job, it's opportunities for nefarious people to get even more nefarious. But on the whole, it is opportunity, and an opportunity for more women to get in on the game.
There's nothing stopping women getting involved in this. There's nothing stopping a lady doing the stuff I'm doing today or one of my software engineers.
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing at all.
exactly. And I guess it's really a thing of perception, and it's really refreshing to hear you say that because for a lot of women I've spoken to over the past year, they've had that hunger, they've had that drive, and they've had the interest in tech, and they jumped in. But on the flip side, there are many who also have that interest, but they don't know what the next step is. I mean, if we said to someone, well, here's an opportunity to design the security for this system, and someone who goes, well, that's interesting, but where do I start?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of curiosity, but sometimes I still feel, and not just me feeling, there's a lot of barriers, a lot of perception that these things are still not for
Mm.
women. So again, conversations like these are good because we're saying it is for you, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be for you if that's what you want.
Definitely.
But I think we just have to acknowledge that those barriers are real, and sometimes it's not obvious that these opportunities are
But,
there.
but on occasions like this is where your networking really, really helps. somewhere down the line, somebody's going to know somebody who can think of a suggestion and opportunity to help you. So my request is, if you fail the first time, talk to somebody.
Not just try again. Talk to someone.
Get it out and have a chat with somebody. Something might spark there. If I can share a personal reflection, when I finished my PhD and applied for my first ever job, I had 126 job rejections before I got my first job. Okay.
Wow.
So when I had my 100th rejection, it was a very sobering experience. I was in the for 12 hours. But when I finally got my role, I was the happiest man ever. But I applied 126 times. I had about 40, 50 interviews, but I still managed to get out. You should never, never, never give in. You should always use your network as much as possible. The thing that prevents the whole, let's say, interest for me is when you look at it from a student school point of view, do we do enough in the STEM activity? Should we make sure it's much more of a STEAM activity, so we mix the technology and creativity together, so it's not process, structure, left brain kind of thing, but it's a much more balanced brain that can get the benefit of our technology. So if you look at the things going on behind me, you need that creativity, but you need to understand positioning, the shape and sizes. But then you also process brain, so how do I get this image in that place? So how do I get that image in that size location? That's what's important. And if we can kind of drive that mix of, you need both right-hand brain and left-hand brain to get the most out of technology, then we might be in a much better place too.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And I think that's an excellent note to end the call. Thank you for sharing your views, and just can't wait to see and hear what you get up to in the future with Ericsson.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, watch this space.
Thank you. So I'll end the recording here.